Next, let's queer up sports. NAIA bans all transgender women from women's sports. On Monday, the National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics, aka the NAIA, made the decision to prohibit transgender women from participating in women's competitions starting next academic year. This move has raised concerns among transgender rights advocates about the possibility of the NCAA adopting similar policies. During the NAIA's National Convention, the Council of Presidents resolved that effective August 1st, only students biologically classified as female may compete in women's sports. This includes transgender men or non-binary students who are undergoing masculinizing hormone therapy. National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics President and CEO Jim Carr emphasized the organization's commitment to ensuring fair competition for all student athletes in a news release. The NAIA, comprising 241 member schools, primarily private with smaller enrollments, holds less sway compared to the NCAA, known for its popular teams and events like the men's basketball title game. Unlike the National Association of the Intercollegiate Athletics, the NCAA regulations permits transgender athletes to participate provided they adhere to international sports governing bodies guidelines. While the NCAA generally supports inclusion, it has refrained from relocating championship events from states with anti-gender athlete legislation. Anna Baeth, Director of Research for Athlete Ally, believes the NAIA's decision suggests the NCAA could adopt similar policies.
Oof. This has been, murky water for a while now for that end of the table. Those people who think that we need to go back to segregating and make it trans women versus women and have two separate teams. I fully believe that if you're living your life, obviously as a woman, that you should be able to participate, in a women's category. I don't know why we would take steps backwards in time and add more segregation to something like this. So this, I always say this, though, this is murky water we're in with this one.
What makes it even murkier, too, is that you can now bet on college sports.
Right.
Right? So adding a layer of gambling to this discussion, I think is ultimately going to force the NCAA to make a decision that we're not going to like.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The popularization of this, of trans athletes and fighting against, inclusion of trans athletes in sports, is really, again, an issue that is affecting 0.1% of the population.
Right.
And it is not going to upend sports as we know it, which has kind of been the clamor out there.
Yeah, the narratives.
So again, it's just another narrative that has been put out there into the public, that is to vilify the trans community and make them out to be, out to, upend our way of life here in the United States and a way to attack them, and is just, again, putting them at more risk of a community that's already at great risk. So
it's tough when you have it coming from within the community. You have Caitlyn Jenner, who basically hates what she is as a human and feels that trans humans should not be able to participate in born, females, as they're putting it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough when you are having power players, and I use that term loosely, from the community against that same.
Well, Martina Navratilova.
Right. Who has since kind of retracted her statements a little bit, or not retracted, but she's kind of tried to add a bit cream to it, I guess. But I'm interested to hear your point of view on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Professional tennis, NCAA, everything. How do you feel about categorizing, segregating, or integrating all together? I'm interested to hear your point of view. And there's no, your opinion is not a wrong answer.
You brought up Martina Navratilova, a dear friend.
Right.
I was her hitting partner when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And I would fly over from Fayetteville, Arkansas to Fort Worth, and we'd practice on weekends. And, I was a good player, not a great player. I certainly never won the U.S. Open, never won 50 Grand Slam titles like she did. And I was playing her when she was #1 in the world and dominating women's tennis. And she'll tell you, I never lost a set to her. And I was a, #1, 2, 3, 4 college player in America. I did beat a Wimbledon champion on his worst surface. I played on the tour for 5, 6, 7 years, missed the Olympic team by 1 match. So I was pretty good. But I didn't lose a set to Martina Navratilova. And every time I went out there and played on the men's circuit, every match was tough. And I lost a lot. My only concern about this, and I'm so cautious in how I say this, I'm concerned for the well-being if it gets into wrestling or if it gets into physical contact sports like rugby. I am concerned that the transgender athlete could get injured really severely. There's a real concern for the physicality of injury. So that kind of strikes me. But I'm going to leave it to smarter people than me. I'm going to leave it to the doctors. I'm going to leave it to the organizations that want to gauge strength. I want to leave it to the people that I really know just so much more about the human body than I do. And I know that this is about, who you are and who you were born to be and who you truly believe you are. But I think that there's a component of injury potential, and I think there's a strength issue where men that are transgender women are much, much stronger in many cases if they're competing in sports. So I just want to make sure that the world sees this in a full circle conversation. But am I all for transgender athletes competing? Give it your best shot and live your dream.
Boxing.
But boxing's concerning.
But wrestling and boxing are weight classes. So it's not like they're just going to be put up against, some random, it's going to be weight
But
class.
I tell you, it's dangerous.
No, I hear you.
Dangerous.
I hear you.
From what I understand, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to make a statement. From what I understand, somebody that's in full transition, who's done everything completely correct and right, even after having done that for 5 years, they're still nowhere near the strength of
a genetically born
that's right.
male, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm concerned that there's going to be a lot of injuries. I'm concerned that this whole thing is just not going to end well.
Well, it's a different avenue to kind of shed light to, so it's not like it's a bad concern. It's one to raise awareness,
valid.
and I'm sure you're not the only.
I swear, I will say this for the record.
Yeah.
I swear I wish I was transgender because I would have won 9 Wimbledons. Because I beat the 9-time Wimbledon champion every time in a practice set.
Fair news.
So I will go that far with this.
I think Martina's calling in right now.
I feel like there's a movie here we should write.
And I love her, by the way.
We'll talk about that movie.
Go take her back in time.